Hello, I am the Ronan Pawn, and welcome to a twitch.tv/Ronan Pawn livestream on twitch.tv/Ronan Pawn. Why so Canadian? It's just who had sex and pushed me out. What's the problem? We don't kill each other, at the frequency that other nations that are nearby do, so what's the problem? Also, I'm not Canadian, but I've got a little Canada in my family tree, if you know what I mean. Welcome to the live stream. Hello, the Light Guy 89. Hey, Pawn, how is it going? It is going. Well, it's really just begun. It's only just begun to let. I've only just begun to sing. How you doing today, huh? What are you about? What's your life? Because my life's all Kerbal. I feel sorry for Lady Pawn, that she has to hear me occasionally shriek at the walls. The walls are very thick. She's fine with it. And my life is all Kerbal, ladies and gentlemen. Yesterday, I spent, I took a day off so that I could just get away from everything. I Kerbaled. I took a day off so that I could do the design on our drilling platform for Minimus off stream, because I knew it was going to take it was going to take a calculator, some calculus, a slide rule, an abacus, that sort of a thing, and it did, and I now have a drilling platform. I had a bit of a problem, though, and the problem that I ran into while I was building it was, how am I going to move the thing around? And I came up with a solution, and then went through another solution, then another solution, and then it was 7 a.m., and I was still sitting here building and hadn't slept and hadn't eaten. But I now have the perfect construction. It's not finished. I never finish anything. I wouldn't want to do that. I wouldn't do that to you. You come here to sit and watch me move things a couple of pixels left and right for hours on end, so I wouldn't take it all away from you. That's it. I thought you would also need a supercomputer. Well, I mean, there are the ones that are monitoring all of my activity at all times from, Amazon and Google, Microsoft, the government, all of those, but I don't mention them. We all know that they're there, they're doing their job, which is to keep us down, and we're just thankful, which is why we don't change anything. Welcome back to Kerbal, everybody. At the end of the live stream, the last live stream, we were transmitting a fair whack of science, both from Minmus and from the moon. We've got two different deployed science lab research centers, one on the surface of Minmus, one in orbit of the moon, and they both have, well, the moon's kind of running out of data. It could use some more data, but Minmus is, I think it's set for the next few months in the amount of data that it's got. It will take quite a while to get the science out of there if we don't just start, time warping our way to thousands of science. But we brought back 1,252 science because, we could. That's why you should move to Canada. Oh, the supercomputers, they're watching Canada. They're watching Canada. They're just less intrigued because there's so much, I don't know, civil rest in Canada? Civil rest? Phrase you never hear, do you? Just realizing that now. You always hear about the civil unrest. Very rarely does the news come on and they say, today in the news, the nation of Uganda achieves a state of civil rest. We're going live there now. What's going on, Dave? Pretty much nothing. Having dinner in a couple of minutes. All right, back to you. And now we move over to a dog gets a home. You don't hear that. You don't hear that on the news these days. I hope there aren't horrible bugs this time, says the Pedrito Perez, the. The Pedrito Perez, the. What are we doing here? Put the at one end and call it a day. I don't care which end, one end. As long as he doesn't use the Oscar B. Afternoon Pod, hello Shadow Reaper Soul. I saw, a guy called Pie here. Let's go! Okay. We're gonna go. In reference to the number of horrible bugs, in designing what I was designing, we're up to 89. My comments on the radiators and That's your fucking bullshit planet scan shit fuck. Yeah, and that sort of a thing. That was from the live stream. That's why I needed the break, the day off. But let's see. The radiator system is unnecessarily opaque and overcomplicated. Quote, this is from the wiki page, the Convertitron 125 is a special case. It cannot be maintained at optimal thermal efficiency because its max cooling cap of 50 kilowatts is below its required cooling of 100 kilowatts. With the help of radiators, it will still reach equilibrium, albeit a little hotter than the optimal 1000 K. This is possible because core heat production scales down at higher core temperatures as the thermal efficiency drops off. Which, I mean, we all know that. That's just obvious. We all just read that paragraph together, listened to me say it aloud, and know what's said there. At all. B. There is no justification for the above in terms of gameplay. Radiators should cool parts without requiring calculus, asterisks, verbose explanations, considerations for one-off parts that don't follow the otherwise established conventions, or any other of Squad's typical shoehorning of realistic nonsense. And I say realistic, I put it in quotes for a reason, you know? It should just, what if it just fucking worked, you know? This is one part in the game that they decided to make. Realize that they decided to make it this way. They have control. They can put the numbers in however they want. They decided, somebody sat down and said, hey, let me take one of the things in the game, just one now, and make it so that the radiator, it says that it needs more cooling than it can possibly get because of the surface skin, because that's a real thing, you know. Sometimes you can't. Somebody sat down and made that choice who was designing a game. You make one part that it won't be explained in the game either. It'll just happen to you. And then if you go to the wiki page on that part and look for the asterisk at the bottom of all the information, what I want my players to do is I want them to come into the game, I want them to build things based on the numbers that I give them in the game, and then load it out. This is great. And then they're going to be fucked after dragging it to God knows where, because it turns out the numbers that they had lied to them. Everybody else think that's a good idea? Oh, am I alone? Everybody went home? Well, I'll implement it myself and ship it. Just throw on 1,000 Peltier units. That will cool it. The V at the end gives more symmetry to my username. The Pedrito Perez, the... I like it. I like it. How many pages? So that was my comment on just the radiator system in general. That's fucking ridiculous. There's things in there. Let's not look at them. Let's not start. Don't let's start. This is the worst part. Believe in all the world that you're my precious little girl, and don't let's start. Ladies and gentlemen, I have some craft to introduce you to. I spent a day and a night, and then kind of into the other day, designing what you're about to see. We'll start with the least interesting of them. The least interesting of them, which nonetheless took me, I estimated 4 hours, 3-4 hours, the drilling platform that we are sending to Minmus. You're gonna say, how did that take you 4 hours? Check it out. This is the drilling platform for Minimus. 49 parts. This is it. There it is. That's 3-4 hours of my life right there, ladies and gentlemen. 3-4 hours of my life. You're welcome. You're welcome, live stream. This is the drilling platform. Why and how would it take you that long? Oh, incidentally, here's another bug that went in my list. See if you can. What would possibly wind up as a bug in my list from what you're looking at right now? What would that's stock in the game that I try to avoid when I'm building? Sometimes you overlap parts. Oh, texture tearing. That's right, the Light Guy 89. Texture tearing in a default part in its default state. They graphically designed this to tear its own textures. Wonderful. Wonderful. Pawn, I'm already impressed, but should I get high on stream? A little, get like medium at least, like a high medium. I read your list. Did you read my list? Textures in the game are... oh, you cheated. Medium. Fair. Okay. We'll get a medium here. We'll get a medium going. So, what's going on here? Everything. A lot. I have not worked with the drilling platforms in so long, and I remembered that there were a lot of complications to them. Mainly, the time that I spent designing this was with calculators and reading and trying to wrap my head around all the things that needed to be considered, because as small, contained, tight, and simple as this may look, it's a lot of different systems that they're sort of feeding on one another. And, I don't not like that about the game. You know, drilling, it's a very late game thing. It can be this sort of complicated, so long as it's clear, and it is clear, except for the Convertitron 125, which because of core heating instead of skin heating, we decided to make it. But it is, you know, it is simple. It's not simple, but it's like easy to understand. It's logical is what it is. Not simple, but it's logical. So, what we have here is the larger Convertitron 250 that just works instead of the 125. It processes ore at a rate of, I believe, 0.5 per second. Go to the utilities and sort by mass because that's how I always want it. It converts ore at, yes, 0.5 ore per second, regardless of what you're, well, a little bit different, but basically 0.5 one way or the other. Regardless of what sort of fuel you're turning it into. So it can process 0.5 ore per second. All right. Well, I don't want to waste bringing, you know, drill up that is going to be sucking in more ore than we can process. It's just a waste of, like, it's not efficient. We're going to fill up on ore, and then it's going to have to process it, and then the drills will only be working some of the time. You want it, you know, you want it not overkill on either end of these things. Now, the large Drill-O-Matic mining excavator, which is mostly behind, you can read all that. This one, at optimal efficiency, would produce 1.5 ore per second. We only need 0.5 ore per second, but it would produce 1.5 ore per second. And this being a surface mount sort of a thing, if you want your craft to be balanced when you get it up there, probably going to want 2 of these things. So 3 ore per second when all our Convertitron can handle is 0.5 per second. Doesn't make a lot of sense, friends. Even though I'm using the big one, using the big drill, big refinery, using the big drills, just doesn't figure. Now, if you are using the Convertitron 125, this one goes through way more ore and produces less liquid fuel and oxidizer for it. You know, it produces less fuel, processes more ore more quickly. It's a smaller, less efficient thing that apparently has its own bullshit fucking heating rules that don't apply to anything else in the game. But, because they wanted it that way. That's neither here nor there. For this one, 2.5 ore a second, it would make sense to put the big drills, which is kind of crazy. I don't know if I agree with this in terms of design. I kind of like the idea, but, you know, I either have to bring 2 big drills and 1 small this, or 1 big this and many small drills, because the small drill, friends, produces at maximum efficiency 0.3 ore per second. We can only use 0.5, okay? Now, that is maximum output, that is maximum efficiency, that is if you are on the surface of something that has all the ore that you could possibly want and you're drilling it at 100% efficiency. That is a state that you are never going to have. So, having 2 of those on here would give us a maximum of 0.6, but we would have to be running at like 90% efficiency or, you know, 80 something or better, and have all that ore down there in order to be able to suck out 0.5 ore with just 2 of them running. So it makes more sense to have 4 of them, and 4 of them at 0.25 is 1 ton, whereas just 1 of these is 1.25 tons. So I have done all of the math here. I have sat down and figured out how these systems work and then done all the math in order to try and come up with the most optimal, most efficient, most logical platform for drilling Minmus. What is a KSP speed run? Asked the Light Guy 89. I've just changed it. I've just changed the sub goal over. It just updated too. It didn't update the text before I started the live stream. I can get world record too. I can get world record. Well, I'm not going to tell you. You just got to throw your money and then you'll see. Throw your subs at me. Nice sub goal, Paul. I'm really glad you're fully back into KSP. I can KSP speed run world record in an hour. Less than an hour. This game requires a degree, an engineering degree in every field. But, so that's why what I've got on here are 4 drills, which will give us a peak possible at 0.3 each of 1.2. can only process 0.5 per second in here, we could potentially get 1.2 per second. This means that with this platform, if we are hitting like 45% efficiency on the ore density, that kind of a thing, then we will be processing maximum, we'll be making the most use per second that we can possibly get. And we don't even need half. We don't even need half of the ore there that we need. Full tech tree done rapid, that's the premise behind that speedrun, yes. Is unlocking the full tech tree. And I'm telling you, I can do it in less than an hour and get a world record. In a certain category. But, so that's just step one, because that's ore. All of these things are going to need electricity. Well, first off, before we get to electricity, everything here is generating heat. Everything here is generating heat. The Convertitron 150 requires 200 kilowatts of cooling. Every one of these little junior arms requires... Where does it say? Requires 50 kilowatts of cooling. So I got 4 of those, that's 200 kilowatts there. Got this guy, which was 200 as well, right? 200 kilowatts there. All of it needs cooling. For probably a half an hour or more, I started building around it, didn't experiment with them, just started building around the premise that if I were to put radiators on this, that were, I think I was going for the side-mounted radiators, these guys, the edge-mounted radiators. These do 150 kilowatts each. So I was building around a premise of, actually this was when I was only bringing up 2 drills, but I was bringing around a premise of just having these 2 radiators on, which would cover the 250 or the 200 plus the 100 for the drills down there. It's a bad idea generally speaking, but I played with the radiator panel edge thing and found out that it's absolutely fucking useless. The parts that only cool nearby parts are basically useless in the game. As far as I can tell, cools only nearby parts means the part that it's attached to and nothing else. Or at least the translation of cooling across to the next part is so hit by a cost of transfer that it's not worth a goddamn thing. And hey, friends, in case you were wondering, the Convertitron 250 has no attachment point on it whatsoever. No surface mount attachment. So you cannot attach any of these parts directly to this unit whatsoever. Which, the radiators, which were put in the game mainly to facilitate the drilling platforms and this kind of a thing, not being designed in such a way that is useful to the drilling platforms. We're just batting 1,000 here, aren't we? Gerbil squad. Yeah. So I realized that the only way that I was going to be able to get the cooling that was going to be required by this was if I put on the kinds of radiators that cool the entire ship and don't care where anything is, and those can get quite big. In fact, hey, let's take this out to the pad. Let's take it out to the pad. Why are we sitting here looking at it, it's out of situ? Let's put it in situ, and let's see what she looks like, see what she does. We need 300 kilowatts of cooling. Each one of these does that's why we were in the VAB, because then I had the numbers. Now I don't know the numbers. It does however much cooling it does. 200 kilowatts each? 250? Something like that? I needed 2 of them anyway. Which is why, there we go. These radiators are attached as they are. And interesting thing that I found out while I was trying to build this as well. You know how minutiae I can get about my designs and ththings. I wanted, if these 2 were going to be up here, I wanted to make sure that if they, both turned, flat, that there would be space enough that they wouldn't merge into one another. And in order to get that into the right position, it probably took 12-15 minutes trying to figure out exactly how I wanted them to be there and how I could actually get them there. And that has to do with the fact that all of the rotational parts, the radiators and the solar panels that rotate on themselves, their nodes of attachment are not on the center of their rotation for the panel. So you can't actually line them up by just snapping them on the points where, with like, what do you call it? Absolute snapping points and stuff like that. They won't actually line up. And then you won't actually know what they're going to do. And if you spin them like in the VAB next to each other in order to see, that's only if you're going to deploy them in that direction. And in this instance, I wanted them, go ahead and close them back up. I wanted them to be the smallest that they'd be under the fairing for loading it up, which means I didn't want them in that direction where they're sitting next to each other. So you put them in that direction, make sure that they're upright, and then turn them. But now their centers of rotation are in different positions, so you don't actually know. And then, so some other little things went into my list of the things that are stupid in Kerbal with that. Could you just like aim the camera there? Thank you very much. But yeah, so these guys are what was needed, and when the sun does go overhead, which is when they will spin. Interestingly, I never thought about this before. I never realized it because I just haven't played with radiators. But radiators are exactly the opposite of solar panels. They do the same thing, but the opposite. They try to avoid being in the line of sight of the sun so that they're not picking up extra cooling, which makes perfect sense. But this is turning, both of these turn to make sure that they are at a 90 to the sun so that they're picking up as little heat as possible. So that's interesting, and I, for a moment, had a deployable solar panel on here, one deployable solar panel to sit in the middle, because I thought, wouldn't it be cool if there was just enough space for that solar panel to get through, because the radiator panels would be twisting to avoid the sun. So if they're twisting like this, then the solar panel will be twisting like this, and it would fit right between those two. Except for they turn at slightly different rates, and so that doesn't actually work, and they do penetrate each other. This fucking game. Hello, Flower Sheba. Sheba? Flower Sheba. So yeah, that's how that works, the thing and the stuff and the guys and the whatnot. Maybe I just get on to the fun stuff. So, in order to have my drills where I want them and also tucked in so that we can get the fairing over it without having to spend a lot on fairings, it made sense to employ some of these. Some hydraulic cylinders. So when we deploy, the cylinders go out and the drills deploy and push them down to where they just have clearance on all sides to get past the platform itself. They tuck up in there nicely. And then once we deploy them, we can turn them on, at which point our lighting will kick on, throwing some harsh yellow light onto the drilling locations. Excellent. And currently you'll note that the important thing about, drilling and refining and stuff is that if the parts don't have enough cooling, they won't overheat and explode, they'll just throttle themselves. So if you don't have the correct amount of cooling, then this 500K of 500K will affect your ore rate. You won't actually be sucking any ore if your thermal efficiency, gets low enough. It'll start at 100 at 500 and 500, and then if you go a little bit over, it starts dropping down. Eventually, if they get so hot, they just won't actually be bringing in anything at all, which currently it does say that the ore rate is not available, even though it is collecting ore. Maybe I should add that to my list of things that don't quite work here, huh? But so we needed that cooling all around. In fact, I will hold that up. I'll leave that up over here, and we will start up the Convertitron to 50, okay, and pay attention to its core temperature as well as we kick you off. So, start making LF and O. So it's making rocket fuel now. But actually, it's not making rocket fuel now. Why isn't it making rocket fuel, Pawn? Because it's only got these little things to be able to fill, and I need to unlock them because they're set up for transfer, for actually launching them. So I'll unlock these fuel tanks, and those fuel tanks are full, so it has no place to put them. But you may be asking yourself, how are you going to power all this if all you've got is this one little, solar panel on there? Well, friends, that's where a fuel cell comes in. So we've got a fuel cell wall down here. Can you see that? Let me turn the light on for you. Let me turn the light on for you. There's fuel cells on either side of these. These generate some amount of electricity, maximally. Actually, I remember, I think it's 18. 18 at maximum efficiency, providing us 36 watts? Kilowatts? 36 ECU per second? Per second. And this draws 25 I really should have stayed in the VAB for the numbers. This draws some, these draw some. It's a dance of numbers building something like this. That's why it took me so long the other day. Because you were trying to make sure that you have the electrical produced in order to run these, and then you have the thermal in order to run these, but the thermal draws electrical, so do you still have the right amount of electrical? And now the electrical is producing heat, now do you have the thermal? And also, what about the ore and versus the rate of, and the sucking in and everything? So what we're going to do now is we're going to turn on the fuel cell, which I've bound to 4. We're now running the fuel cell, and you'll see my electric charge starting to fill up in a hurry as my LF and O start to drain a bit. But we are drilling for the LF and O right now, so now we're manufacturing it, and we've hit an equilibrium, ladies and gentlemen. If I were to turn off, let's do it this way. So I'm going to turn everything off. By the way, still thermal efficiency 100%. If I turn off the fuel, okay, we're no longer using the liquid. Actually, no. Turn on the fuel, so we're now generating fuel with the electricity, but I'm going to stop making liquid fuel and oxidizer with you, and now you'll see that my LFO is starting to drain ever so slowly. We're going to start time warping so that we get through that. So we're not generating any electricity right now except for what's coming in off of this guy, which I just put on as a little thing to, in case we're dry and everything else, and we need to start things up, we need the probe to be active. So we're just going to run time forward at a very large rate, suck all of our electricity out, and then in the middle of the day, once we get some electric charge back in here, and I can actually control a thing again, which will be when the sun is up here enough. Well, actually, the problem will be right now. No, I probably have enough electricity to turn it on. If I turn it on, boom. And I don't have enough electricity to turn it on. There is a time of day where we get enough electricity to make this happen. So, here we go. And, boom, turn them on. What are you doing? What's happening here? Everything's going... I've broken the game, everybody. I have broken the game. Start the fuel cell. Okay, I think the problem is that I'm still running the drills, so if I stop the drills... Alright, collapse the radiators as well. Can we collapse the radiators in? There we go. Now I can get enough electric charge to actually start things up. You are running. No, you're not. Now you're running. Now you're running if you had anything to run off, but we don't have anything to run off. Okay, I set myself up in the worst possible way. Go ahead and start the drills back up. So we're now drilling something. Get some ore out. And start up that. There we go. There we go. Now we're kicking off. Now we're getting some electrical charge in because we're producing enough we're producing enough LFO to burn it to create our electrical charge again. However, because I don't have my radiator panels out, look at our thermal efficiencies. Dropping down to nothing, and how is that impacting like how much we're making? Our ore rate is horrible. Our LFO, our something rate is something probably. Let's go ahead and reopen those now that we've got the electricity to, make them happen. And our thermal efficiency immediately starts to come up. Back to 100%. And this is what I wanted you to see. This was the whole reason of doing this, is we have no oxidizer liquid fuel right now because it's all being consumed to produce the electricity to run the platform. Once we have a full electric charge, or 1500 and somewhere it just decides to stop for some reason I don't understand, 1525, now that we have a full electric charge, now we start filling up with our LF and our O because we have an excess. These two units producing the electricity for us by burning liquid fuel and oxidizer are producing, they consume 72 units of liquid fuel per hour. And in an hour, at optimal efficiency, this platform harvests thousands of liquid fuel. I don't remember how much it was, because when I saw the number, I went, oh, fuck, yes, that's okay. Do that, then. I'm back. Had to get emergency snacks. Also, why are you drilling the launch pad? Just to put in some new plumbing lines. We need to run a new gas main here, so we're just getting through the hard stuff. Just to show it off, just to show off how it works. There are just so many, like, considerations to go into this. That it took a good long time figuring out the numbers, figuring out how each system would work, making sure that we weren't spending too much of our electricity on making the electricity, all kinds of different things. Hello, Destroyer 022. So this is ready to go. And also, when we want to... Zero? Did I not put you on an action group? When it's time to... I guess I didn't put you on an action group. Let's put it on. When it's time... You're on 5. Toggle the piston. I pressed 5. I'll press 5 again. 5 is not responding to me, friends. It's not responding. Don't worry about it. We'll just, Well, we're warped? We're warping, that's why. 5! There we go. When we're ready to attach our fuel field, because right now we're running this whole thing off of the amount of liquid fuel that is stored in these balls, these little dumpling tanks. So everything that's running right now is just filling it up to there. This is just its own platform fuel tanks to be able to run the system and to have a backup and things like that, as well as to be able to move it around. Because I've also thought, how am I going to move this around on Minmus? And I had a lot of plans, a lot of ideas, a lot of thoughts on how to do that. And the best one that I came up with was just to have it lift itself. It's got a probe, it's got SAS at the top that is just going to help us get it there when it's attached to the ship, was why I put that there. It might as well just fly itself around on Minmus. So I figured out that, I looked into it and found out that 4 of these ants at this weight are 2 TWR on Minmus, on the surface of Minmus, and that these balls, when they're full, let's fill our balls up, everybody. So I'm just going to warp until our LF and O is completely full, and then I'll turn our lights back on. When they are completely full, we have, well, drilling, I will mind, well, we have 64, we actually have 70 units, 70 delta V is what we would have. 70 delta V. And on Minmus, bear in mind, 70 delta V is approaching halfway to orbit. 70 delta V is actually a lot for being able to move something that you've already landed on Minmus to a new location. That's fine, and the fact that we can drop it down, fill it back up, and move it a little bit more, it's fine. How do you transit it to the ship? I'm gonna assume that what you mean is how do I get it up there? And that is the question we'll have to answer today. We have to solve that conundrum, that riddle, as it stands, you know, for later. See how long those burn? And that wasn't even all of the liquid fuel, and we're doing other things that consumes the liquid fuel as it goes, so... how do you transit it to the ship? Yeah. We're gonna have to build this into a lift stage, and that's going to be the big question, is what's gonna be the lander stage for this, as well as the other thing that will be coming up, hopefully with it, if we can lift it all at once. Let's go ahead and revert. Back to vehicle assembly. If we can lift it all at once, the other thing that would be coming up, which is way more interesting, I mean, if you like numbers, you like utility and form and function and design like I do, then this is interesting. But the thing that's more, I don't know, fun, is, let me show you the tractor. So this is the tractor. The idea was, we're going to need, in addition to our drilling platform, fuel tanks. You know, we can't just store little balls of fuel. We want to get thousands of fuel out of Minmus and then be able to put it onto a craft and drag it to the moon, where we've got a space station in orbit. That's the end goal here. So we're going to need some great big fuel tanks. We're going to need to move those great big fuel tanks around the Minmus outpost. So we're going to need us a tractor. So I went and designed us a tractor that was meant to push the fuel tanks around. And I got done with this tractor and I said, you know, it's poorly designed. It's very unstable. The surface of Minmus, this thing's just gonna tip. If I drive it around on curb and it wants to fall over, this can be done better. So I scrapped the tractor and started on the Tractor Mark II. And this is the Tractor Mark II. This has seating for 2. It has monoprop for kicking on the turbo engines, by which I mean just turning on RCS and hitting H if you want to go super fast. It's got some wheels up front that will be generating, that can pull us with electrics. And by the way, this is no. This thing's electrical. This thing's combustion electrical, though. We've got fuel cells on here as well. So these 2 fuel cells will actually be burning LFO that's stored on the Oscar Bs in order to produce the electricity that will drive this thing around. It also does have a roof that is a solar panel that can help us out, but mainly it's meant to be driven by fuel. But importantly, it has an adjustable robotic docking port on it. I don't have any animations for this. This would be controlled by hand. We can lift it up to that height if we've got something very high that we need to tow behind us. And if we've got something that's at a certain angle on the docking port, then we can lower it to... I've limited it to what makes sense, but I could get past that limit if I wanted to. But these, we can move it to whatever angle we need to grab onto, something that is at an awkward angle, which occasionally does happen. You'll have like landing legs on one side, craft fell over, or craft designed to be left with just 2 landing legs holding it up. So we have all of these levels of control over this docking port. Suck it back in. It's also got a whole bunch of science on it. It's also got a surface scanner on it, surface scanning module, for us to be able to, find the best site to do our drilling. And we've got, if I remember right, this came to me only like today, that if I remember right, the surface scanning module works in conjunction with the orbital scanner that we put up over Minmus before. If you have the orbital scanner, then you can get very fine readings about where the best position is on the surface to drill. Otherwise, if you've just got the surface scanner, it gives you the information about the biome. If you've just got the orbital scanner, it gives you information about all the biomes. It gives you a map anyway, a grid of where it's densest and where the fuel or where the ore is densest, that sort of thing. But when you put the 2 of them together, have one in orbit, have one on the ground, then you get readings right down to just this spot to tell you, is this a good space? I think, if I recall correctly, that's how it worked in the 1.04 when they implemented the system? Or was it just the 1.0? It might have just been the 1.0. I'm sounding retarded today. I meant, how do you transfer the fuel to the ships? With this. So, in fact, this didn't start as this. This started as this. Okay? The idea would be, we've got docking ports on the sides, extendable docking ports on the sides of the drilling rig, and then this would come and park up and be connected directly to those drilling ports via its own port. Something like this, anyway. This would contain a total of 2,880 units of liquid fuel. These are 2 1440s. And then in the middle, we also have 750 monoprop that we can store there. So that would just be our big old, rolling, but has no control of its own. No probe, no electric wheels, just a rolling fuel platform on the surface of Minmus. Might want to even double up on the monoprop. This is where the whole design started and where I built the tractor. Then I separated the tractor off and started building in those directions. Having shown you the Tractor Mark II, I'm just going to skip from the Tractor Mark II to what we're actually going to send, which is the Jeep. This is the Jeep, ladies and gentlemen. The Jeep has everything. Short of a Science Junior, it has everything that anyone could possibly want. Come on down to your local pawn Jeep store and buy yourself a Jeep today. It has everything that you could possibly want for 1.85 tons. Does it generate 1.21 gigawatts? It does, and it needs it because the flux capacitor is what makes time travel possible. I put that barometer there specifically because it's the flux capacitor. It has your surface scanner. It has a flux capacitor. It has a this thing, whatever it is. I don't know why it won't pop up information when I right-click on it, but that thing. It's got a thermometer on it. It's got the seismic. I think it's got that thing on it. It's got the docking port as we established previously. It's got a personalized license plate on it. It's got the coolest friggin' headlights or tail lights that you've ever seen right there. And when we just fire them up, they look really fucking cool too. I'll show you when we get it outside. It's got this guy that does that. It's also got on the roof a medium range scanning arm. I've never brought a medium up before, might as well bring a medium up. It's got RCS, and under the hood, okay, if we look under the hood, let's just go ahead and, oh, Jesus Christ, shot me right in the eye there. It has a boom, not that it needs one, but it needed something for like where the emblem would go or something. It needed something to fill this space, but if you look deep under the hood, you'll notice we've got RCS, and that RCS, I'm gonna pull this off, check it out. I put it into a whole like cage area where it actually does have the freedom to expel that RCS in all the directions. So it's got that RCS. And it's got the Turbo Boost RCS here. It's been, outfitted with the best body that we possibly could make, which is just made of all of these atmospheric fluid spectrovariometers, which will be useless on the surface of Minmus. But each one of these things, it is a massive part, as you can tell, relatively speaking, for a 0.005. It's the same weight as that thermometer. That thermometer and one of these, same weight. So I used that in order to create the body for it. Underneath, we have a experiment storage unit that can suck all of our science to one single point as we go. We also have a cargo storage unit, so we could bring surface deployable science if we wanted to. We've also got ourselves a mystery goo container unit here, and we've got comms on the back. If we do want to transmit anything from the Jeep, we can pop that out and send data to wherever it is that we're sending the data. This has everything on it, and if you're having trouble getting into the vehicle, just extend the ladder and climb up from the front, which you won't. It's fine. You can enter it from the ground. It's also probe controlled as well as being Kerbal steered. There is room for two here, however, bear in mind that there's not a lot of headroom for a Kerbal wearing a helmet. If you got a helmet on, you're gonna really have to duck. You may find some penetration from the roll bars, the roll cage, into your head. What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? I'm so happy with this little Jeep. This is the thing that's going to push our fuel tank around when it's on the surface of Minmus. It's a rotary engine. That's right, it's the rotary engine. This is Wankel. Wankel designed this one. Maybe I should call it the Wankel. The Jeep Mark I. And friends, how does she drive? Let's take her out for a tour and see how she drives. Wankel V8. Wait. That's not rotaries wouldn't have a V. Right? Better be fast, Pawn. I know, Pawn. Well, you almost slip one past me. Have you tested those wheels? I'm always disappointed at how weak they are. Yeah, I was surprised that they're not as fast and other things, but they have handled driving around the Space Center here pretty well so far. So here we are. Here's Jeb driving around. By the way, Jeb, just for testing's sake, hit the brakes. Just for testing's sake, go ahead and put your helmet on. Jeb has full clearance of his head, no problem. If he were in the back seat there, I can't really speak to that. It's not an issue. But you can leave your helmet off there, Mr. Jebediah. The brakes hold very, very well. They do not. This craft does not move if the brakes are on, even if you're telling it to. And we have 905 electric charge apparently total on the craft, but this is a combustion engine vehicle, so I'm going to go ahead and start it up by hitting 1. And we're back up to 905 charge. Although apparently we didn't need that because we've got this actually working, so as long as I'm not driving it, then we're okay. Let's go ahead and take a ramp. Take a drop here. Hit the ground at 9 meters per second. We're fine. Let's go ahead and spin over here. We've got a nice wide wheelbase that works on curbing anyway, for keeping us from having issues. Managed to climb up here. Just barely, though. Just barely. It's a very rigid wheelbase is the thing, which is going to be actually good for where we're going. But, it is a consideration. Now, learn your engines. Sorry. Sorry, you made slots for the helmets in the roll cage, right? Yeah, that's where you could store your... You just hang the helmet from the roll cage is the idea. But, yeah, this thing works very, very well, and she skids to a halt very, very nicely, doesn't she? And, more importantly, we've got a new thing that we can drive around and get science with. Give me a gravity scan. Sensor seems to think it's being calibrated. Atmospheric analysis. Thank you for that as well. And, collect all, which I believe I've put on 0. Yes. Brakes off, and let's keep driving around, because we can now drive this craft around the Space Center and get a whole bunch of, you know... Okay, yep, that's a little bit weak. You know what? We need some more speed, I think. So, RCS on, H. Okay, that's... Alright, H off, RCS off. That's the turbo boost. It's not impressive on Kerbin, but on Minmus, your kids are gonna love it. Do you have the contract to collect sirens around Kerbin? No. No, but I mean, we've got some new science that we can do here. Might as well do it. What the fuck is this? It's a Jeep. It's clearly a Jeep. What are you talking about? Okay, brakes on. Seismic scan. Gathered precise acceleration data while subjecting the vessel to this situation. Gravity scan. Being calibrated. Atmospheric analysis. Thank you. And 0 sucks all that into our underbelly. And we keep driving. Was that the VAB? Because we just did the crawler way, right? So that would have been the VAB. We're right here by the VAB. It must have been the VAB. Why does a Minmus buggy have the atmospheric science? I swear it doesn't work in vacuum. To look cool? Literally all of the science was here originally just to look cool, and then I realized, you know what? I've got all the science. This could actually be useful. But yeah, I put one of everything on here to look cool. It's 0.005. Why wouldn't I? Hit the brakes, lock her up, and slide out. Give me another seismic scan. Give me another gravity scan. Give me another atmospheric analysis. Good day to fly. Go ahead and park that up. Shall we head out to the runway? Ooh, there was... For a second there, it let me do something else. Oh wait, that'll be... Okay, so we're on the seam. Yeah, we're on the seam between two areas there, I'll bet. And that will just be... shore. KSP shore.
Porn, you know you can climb those stairs.
Not with this vehicle, I can't. Not with this vehicle, I can't. I've never climbed the stairs. I've never climbed the stairs. There's a seam right here. That's why it gave me extra data, right? Seam between two biomes, just enough space to get... Well, we'll be driving around a lot today. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Head over to the space plane hangar. I didn't know. I knew. I think I saw videos and announcements and stuff about being able to climb those stairs. But I've never done it. Is today the day? No. I'm driving my Jeep around, probably. Seismic scan. Gravity scan. After reading the manual a few times, the command team is able to make an accurate reading of the local gravity. Okay. Atmosphere analysis. Good time to fly. And that was all from the spaceplane hangar. Let's head over to the runway in case there's something we haven't gotten from the runway. I'm sure that I hit that button. I did. But yeah, I'm very happy with this. Oh god, it's getting so dark I can barely see. I embedded the rectangular lights into two of these. You give me that sciencey look, and then I set it red so that we've got actual brake lights, and then on the front we got the headlights. Look at that. Tell me that ain't awesome. I mean, don't, because it is, and I don't want to hear your negative bullshit again. My god. Why can't you just be like, that's cool, Pawn? Fuck. Anything that we haven't gotten on the runway before? Not a single piece of science that we haven't gotten from the runway, apparently. Unless I'm still not on the runway. I'm definitely on the runway. Okay, we've already gotten all this science. I have trouble believing that, but if you say so. And yes, I have sucked up all the things, so we should be fine. Over to the astronaut center, because we've gotten new science recently. So, you know. Yeah. She's a fine little craft is what she is. I can't wait to, like, approach a rock on Minmus and pull out the medium scanning arm. The lights are very cool, right? A little slit like that. It's just very, very sci-fi, very future, very DeLorean. You know, very DeLorean. Seismic scan. Gravity scan. Atmospheric analysis. Temperature and pressure reading suggests it's still just talking about flying. Got it. Let's go over to the admin building. And we've also got to remember to hump, atmosphere analysis from administration. That's the only thing that we hadn't gotten from here. Oh, no. Did I press 0? There we go. Seismic scan and gravity scan. Thank you. And hit 0 again. When we were in midair, we were able to collect a little bit more science for just that half a second. But we do need to hump the flag post here. Yeah, almost. Just need a little bit more info. I'm gonna F5 if I could just brakes, F5, just in case I break the wheels or something trying to ramp myself up here. Brakes. Ooh. Seismic scan from the flagpole. Gravity scan from the flagpole. Yep. Doesn't have much interesting to say. Put all that back away. Thank you very much. We got the flagpole data. What else have we got here? We've just got R&D and the tracking center. Now that we've got the fully upgraded R&D facility, it's actually kind of fun to drive around because, you know, it's well designed. It looks cool. There's so many little turns to take and alleyways and stuff. Hello, what do we got here? We're already... No, that's just the KSC. Quick, lock up the brakes because I don't want to leave this yet. Gravity scan. Seismic scan. Thank you. And then carry on to the R&D center. Atmospheric analysis from R&D. Gravity scan. Seismic scan. I hope I'm not missing anything. I am trying to like lay my eyes on it just to make sure that it's telling me the same crap that it always tells me. But I could be, you know, missing a trick. Love a little buggy like this. So, oh yeah, and there's like fuel canisters over here or something. See? It's fun to drive around the R&D center. Woo! Because it's so well greebled. There's so much going on. Water tower. Let's head over to the tracking station. F2, brakes on, F5, and let's carry on, because I do want to go down and across this field. Just want to make sure that we didn't blow up. One of the things that this craft has a tendency to do, if it's going to do something, it's probably going to flip. Where are we now? Kerbin's Shores, get that. Get that. Get that. It's probably going to flip from the front. Because the center of mass, I designed it to be toward the front to keep the weight over the wheels. What do we got here? This is the tracking station. Okay. Gravity scan. I probably won't be able to get up this hill now because I stopped. Temperature and pressure. Good time for flying as any. Come on. You can do it. You can do it. You can't do it. Oh. Come on, baby. You got this. You got this. The fuel cells are running. We are still draining electric charge, though, so there's not quite enough fuel cell on here to get the job done, apparently. Come on. Come on. Little extra boost. Get over that invisible hump. Is that everything? I think that's everything. Kerbin Shores, we went all the way around the center. I think we're good. I'm going to drive back over here just for fun. I feel sorry for the landscapers. that I'm just doing donuts around here. You want to do a donut? Here, give me some speed. RCSH. Let's go. Speed up. I really want to skid out, you know. RCS off, and... No! It's a bad idea. Bad idea. That's what that was. It's a bad idea. But it's fine, because we've got all of our science stored in the storage unit, and that's 29 data for us. You can hump more buildings if you want. Oh, really? Like, humping the buildings? Oh, well, can I, though? Can I, though? Probably, actually. Let's turn the SAS on to normal mode. In fact, I will have put that onto a button. 0? No, 0 recollects. 2? Yes. So let's put this to normal mode. And then with the SAS, see if I can't roll myself over into a situation that doesn't suck. We're in a situation that sucks. There's lots of ways to write this craft. Potentially. Potentially, anyway. Brakes off. That'll help. And then RCS. Fold in the front wheels. Ooh, that's an option. Retract. On Minmus, it'll be fine for flipping over and all sorts of things. Yep, this vehicle actually, you know, throughout development, it just kept getting heavier and heavier and heavier. It used to be able to flip itself just fine and right itself. It is now so heavy that, at least in Kerbin's Gravity, it can't do it after losing however many parts it lost. Alright, fair enough. That's all the science we're getting today. Recover that vessel. Extend the docking port. Well, I did. I could have flapped it around a little bit to try and help as well, but fuck it. We got 29 science, and really we were just doing that for the fun of it. That was 186 science, 29 different research things, but 186 different science collected. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Alright, and then is there a mess out there? Is there anything that needs to be collected? No? I guess the janitors already came by and swept up. So, that's what needs to happen today. Today, we need to figure out what we have to do to push up the Jeep, the drilling platform for Minmus, which is drilling platform Mark 1, and a set of fuel tanks that will store our empty fuel as we generate them that have docking ports on them. And it could potentially all be done in one ship. This is already 8 tons. We know that the Jeep is about 2 tons. So it's 10 tons between the two of them. And then the liquid fuel tanks will be the tanks that we use to get there. You know, they'd have like the transfer stage built into them. Maybe the tow truck comes over. It needs a landing stage is the most, you know, problematic part of that. But this is where we sit. Time for the mainsail, time for the really big engines. I've certainly got the science to buy into them. Hello, Angel Dust Gamer. These are the 3 things that need to be put together to create a ship that goes to the moon carrying all this stuff. I'm happy with all this stuff. I think all this stuff will work and do what I want it to. I didn't show you guys earlier when I had this out, but this also does have landing gear on it. That just holds it up a little bit for additional stability, but mainly for I want to be able to experiment with this whole platform shakes a little bit. If you put it in a fizz warp, because it's drilling and all that kind of stuff, it wobbles. And I just wanted to have the landing legs there to experiment with whether it's better to have it sitting flat on the ground or, you know, on the landing legs. Also, for having some extra ability to control how high our docking ports are. You know, because if we put them down, it'll be a little bit higher, and I think I can control that. Can you do, like, spring dampers for these? Yeah, spring damper override, which means I could make them... I can basically, you know, use them as a lift kit. Roll around on my 6-foe. That sort of a thing. How you doing today, Ronan? Good. Good. I'm chuffed at all this stuff that I built yesterday for today's stream, and we're about to, like, put it all together and, you know, figure out how it is we're getting it to Minmus. The main thing that I don't know what we're doing with yet is I want to bring those really big fuel tanks up with us. And I just don't understand how I'm going to take those big tanks to Minmus and then land it and then break it all apart in such a way that it makes the slightest bit of sense. I don't know that yet. I don't understand what I'm going to be doing for that end of things currently. The transfer stage, transfer and landing stage. How does that end up happening on this craft? I don't have an answer. We're going to get that answer together after this live stream break, because I really need to pee. Been here for an hour, and I didn't pee before the live stream, is how it feels in my bladder anyway. So we're going to take a live stream break. When we come back, we'll start building this up to be able to go to the black hole. That's the name of the song you're reading. To Minmus. Stay with me, don't go anywhere, pulling that out.
Noise you couldn't quite locate or explain. Noise you couldn't quite locate or explain. Quite. Noise you couldn't quite locate or explain. Couldn't quite locate or explain. Noise you couldn't quite locate. Noise you couldn't quite locate.
Hello, I am the Ronan Bawn, and welcome back to a twitch.tv/Ronan Bawn live stream on twitch.tv/Ronan Bawn, your only source for we'll sell you the whole seat, but you'll only need the edge. Kerbal gameplay, Kerbal gameplay, Kerbal game. Whew. So, welcome back. We've got a build ahead of us, friends. I've done all of the heavy lifting. But we do have a bit of a build ahead of us. And there's one thing that may be an oversight that actually Lady Pawn brought up and pointed out when I was just telling her about this design. She just happened to ask, what does it do for communications? Does it have communications on it? I don't think I put any communications on it. It is a probe-controlled vessel. So it's gonna need some comms. Is Lady Pawn a gamer too? A bit, yes. A bit. She'd be happier if we had some more, like, if I had a gaming system. And I need a console. I need a console or else this relationship just isn't gonna work. But, so, I was taking my pee, and whatever else I do during my live stream break that's none of your goddamn business, and, I was thinking, what if we made this, you know, it stands tall-ish, proud, on the surface. What if we gave it, like, relay capabilities? What if it was a relay comms platform as well? That does add a fair whack of weight to it, but what do we care at this point? It's already pretty damn heavy. Paul and the Wheat is not doing enough. You seem pleasant to me, other than the complaining that it's not doing enough. I was going to stream KSP to a friend on Discord tonight, but she ended up having to go to Boston instead. Really excited for it, though, and she is too. Oh, that's cool. That's cool. This sits, you know, tall and proud up here. If I were to attach a pair of, you know, last-minute design alterations and stuff, snapping, and then you on there, not like that. You'd be the other way, like that, and then it can't be penetrating, and then also, it's very, very important. Very, very important that these be able to rotate and not touch them, and they will. They absolutely will. When deployed, yes, they would not impact those. But they can't just be thrown up there willy-nilly, as they have been. It needs to look nice. It doesn't look nice enough yet, is what I have to say about that. What do you think about this? Relay comms at the top. Huh? Maybe we tilt them up a bit. A little snapping. Just like that. Just like so. And that would allow me to drop them down without having to make any additional weird platformy kind of a stuff on there. And we should still be able to rotate those panels without impacting them. And they look nice. Yeah, boom. Done. Done. Simplest good-looking addition to this thing that I've done all build for it. And you guys didn't see that part. I spared you some of it, but there. Now we've got not only comms for the station itself, but it can act as a relay center, using its height, standing on one of the tallest points equatorially on Minmus, very flat as well, to serve other vessels in range. We could have little droney things that just have the Communitron up there, and that would be good. When will Lady Pawn make an appearance? When she's damn well good and ready, or never, as is her wont. Whatever she wants to do. I'm a little about how these engines are attached, but you know they need the ground clearance. And let's just see. Just looking for the place where they look nice. They look nice and have the ground clearance. And, you know, I'm looking for that place where it looks like they are actually attached, but also I know that they're not going to bang off of the ground. That's better. That makes me feel better right there. I can go lower. There is more low to be had. How much low is there to be had? They still have ground clearance. That said, if it starts to lean or tip in one of those directions, you know, you want to pop off one of these engines. Kinda need all four of them. Let me just show you that, by the way. The Delta V, or the TWR, at Minmus, in vacuum, TWR, if I put some liquid fuel in these, or well, if I reopen them, is 1.96, so about 2 with 76 meters per second is what it's showing that we would have on the surface of Minmus when those are full. Don't need any more liquid fuel on it than that. That's like a third of the way to orbit. So, you have the small cubes in the structural parts. Sister Mason, I have the small cubes in the structural parts. For the cubic octagonal struts, for mounting them, yeah, I would prefer to not add any more part count to this. It's only 51. Oh my, I didn't realize how efficient I'd been in the build. All these parts, all this greebling, all this shit going on, it's still only 51 parts? Damn, I'm a good builder. I take many things are considered, and that's why it takes me so long to build. And I've made sure to get my logo in there nicely. Yeah. This is ready to go. But, before it goes, I want to build the fuel platform. I had an idea for that during the live stream break as well. So, for getting it up here, for getting it to Minmus, rather, we're going to be using, you know, big fuel tanks, and those big fuel tanks could be our empty fuel tanks once we're there that we'll be loading all the fuel that we're refining into. And my thought was, instead of doing one big long tank like I had designed before, if we were to use two, one on either side, then each of these could have an engine on the bottom of them. They could be designed to break off, you know, once we're landed and that sort of a thing. So we'll start with, give me, yeah, you, and then, yeah, flip you around like so, and we only need to do this on one side, because I just need the basic design premise before we go on from here. And my thought would be, number one, these need to be that texture. No, you want them orange pawn. The orange fuzzy, the one that looks like we carpeted it. Do you want a Minmus trucking fleet that docks to the drilling platform? I haven't actually considered yet the idea of docking and refueling directly. I think, just to keep this simple, because it's already rather complex, there's a lot that's coming up right now, but that's a good point, bringing that up. I think I will wait to consider a refueling platform, because we've got the spider guy that lands, you know, top down. He'd need a place to do that, and then we'd also want to be able to drive things up in fuel. So we want something that's basically a cube of docking ports kind of a scenario. I will consider that when we design the craft that's going to be what flies to and from Minmus and the moon. And we'll try and bring up that platform then. That might make the most sense. It might, anyway. Who's really to say? But it might. It could. What now? Hold on. What now is I want the biggest monoprop that we could get. Should be that, and I want you to be in, yeah, the yellow. The yellow goes more with the orange. But right now I'm thinking I've got multiple thoughts going on, which is always problematic for me. I'm thinking that I could put an engine on the bottom of this instead of having another, you know, decoupler, another docking port. If I put an engine on the bottom of this, and then it had wheels and we could push it around and shit. If it's got wheels and we're gonna push it around, then you need a docking port on both sides. Yeah. Yeah. So it needs a docking port on both sides. Yes, it does. And the docking port will, like, fit there. It's gonna look kind of weird. I could put a cap on the end of it, couldn't I? Under structural? Do we have a cap that's big enough? I don't think we do. We do. Cap on you like that? Are there alternate designs for that? There are. Could cap both ends just to give it some symmetry to it, actually. Thank you. Pull you off. Do like so. Do like so. I don't hate that. Yeah. That makes it look very official. And then the docking port would be here. And let's make sure that the text is the correct way up, because it is definitely not right now. Are you backwards or something? What's going on here? Where's the text? You don't have text on this one? The smaller ones don't have text, or is it just embedded into the thing that it's attaching to, which is what it kind of looks like is happening here? No. Okay, I could have swore there was text on all these. Frackle! Subscribing at Tier 1, 10 months, space! Thank you so much for the subscription, Frackle. Welcome back to the Big Dick Club. Are you on in the right way? It doesn't matter. You can adjust that later. But so that would be our, you know, we'd have 2 of them. And we would use this liquid fuel, possibly with maybe even detachable engines or something, in order to push all of this up. And that makes for a less ridiculously tall craft than if I did, you know, if I did it all as one. And it also gives me the potential, I'm considering in the back of my mind, could we build a craft that moves all of this to Minmus that just grabs the fuel tanks and goes? Or maybe just grabs one of the fuel tanks and goes. From Minmus to the moon, rather. Instead of, you know, having a craft that's a big craft that comes down and loads itself up. It's a small craft that comes, attaches to this, has an engine, needs the fuel, that kind of a thing. Huh? And then pushes it maybe on the nose. I like those ideas, but I'm getting well ahead of myself. I just do want to have thought that I've considered them. That's why it doesn't have the text on it. It's the wrong docking port. I'm supposed to be doing the juniors here. See? I know things. Will you just, however it is that you attach. I know things. You do have text on you, you son of a bitch. And the text, no, you son of a bitch. Text is upright. There you go. Lock, masochism. Macwazib? Everybody else reads that Macwazibum, right? It definitely doesn't say mechanism. It says lock with an umlaut over the O. Luck, Macamabel. Macamabv. That's what it says. I think we can all see that. I think we can all tell. The tow truck Mark II for dragging around the tanks. Possibly, yeah. You don't speedrun cluster truck anymore, says Make It? Yeah, I do indeed. I've just been doing a lot more Kerbal lately, but I'm trying to do at least one speedrun a week to keep, you know, steady and get one new PB every time that we do it. So there is more speedrunning cluster truck in our future, absolutely. Not too long either, because I feel like we've done like 4 or 5 Kerbal streams in a row, so next stream or the stream after that, more cluster truck. But that can be our majigger madoodle thingy. In fact, where we're sitting right now, if I just saved as the next thing, so 25. 25, this is the whole fuel thing, fuel platform to Minmus is what it is. Hopefully there's just a Mark 1. Oh god, I said that out loud. Now I've doomed us to not have one. So if I save you as that, and then you guys, target extension, you come back in, and then this comes off and becomes part of the lifting stage for everything above it. This is going to be curious. This has got to be, basically this needs to be our lander. And then when these guys land, we're gonna need wheels on it at the correct height. So let's do that before I start building how we lift it, because we're gonna need some wheels on it. And before I was using these, I like to go with whatever the lowest weight, you know, thing is that I can possibly get away with when I do. X, and then on mirror, nope, we're gonna have to do it. Yeah, we're gonna have to do it mirror, but I need you with different mirror. How do I get there? If I set like you as the thing, I don't think this is gonna work. If I took the whole thing and I rotated it, does that give me the kind of mirror that I'm looking for? It does. It does. Okay. Okay, so from you, and then down this way. And you guys, let's see if we get lucky with a snapping point that's just like right where we want it to be. I don't think we do. It's going to be a fair bit lower than the platform itself. That looks about right. And then in. Doesn't have a lot of ground clearance, but don't need it. So you guys, give me you again. Snapping from the center, up here. It's gonna be better if... Let me put you both on this end. For the sake of dragging it, once it's on Minmus, we're going to be pushing it around with a tow truck. So if we've got multiple centers of things and stuff, you know what I'm talking about? The things and the stuff. Look, more or less, you know what you could do to be absolutely sure, Pawn? You could put them in exactly the same point and then drag them back, especially if you're going to have them both on the orange. So, like you. Oh yeah, I hit that pretty damn dead on. And then back. Good. Because we'll be pushing it around from this end, so, you know, not having a whole bunch of points that are trying to hold us at a certain level different than what the tow truck is doing will be helpful. Do parachutes work on Minmus? Absolutely not. There is no atmosphere. That should be good for the roller. This would come up completely empty. This would be full because we're going to use the fuel in it. Okay. That's the whole platform figured, isn't it? Yes, it is. So now I could detach you from there. Let's go back to you as the core, as the root part. And then let me just make sure that the octo label is in the right direction. It is for takeoff, so that the 90 and east it'll all be, you know, the way that I expect it to. And then we'll recenter this according to the camera. Zoom in hard. Move you there. Move you there. Move you there. Now, the core of the ship is central to our camera. A space for monoprop holding. On this, I thought about that. It would make it easier to maneuver it once we're on the surface of Minmus if we could just monoprop it in those directions. But I hate to add that whole system to it, because it's a whole nother system for a fuel platform that is very much just a fuel platform at this point. So I'm gonna say no, but it's not a bad idea. We're just gonna have to fly it well. We've got a big, you know, SAS unit with a lot of reaction wheel power up there. We're talking about Minmus here. Yeah, it's 10 tons, but it's 10 tons in, you know, next to no gravity. I think we'll be able to maneuver it and land it without the need for RCS and stuff like that. And for holding the produced money? Is this going to generate money for me for free? Oh, I'd love that. Is that how that works? Let's do it. Mono. Well, that's what the yellow tank at the end is. Boom. There's our monoprop. So that's for mono. This is for LFO. Can you actually see that? Yes, you can. Okay. So we've got mono, we've got LFO. How do I build this thing? I could take advantage of the fact that we've got these two docking ports here and try and just like attach you to one of these with snapping. Boy, this is gonna be, it's a hard Am I grabbing? Yeah, I'm grabbing you from that docking port, which is not what I'd want to be the case. Can I redefine that and get it where I want it to be? Possibly no. How would I do that? If I'm trying to get the control point to be the orange tank, change the route to the orange tank, break you off, and then put it back on. Okay. Change you, make the orange tank the root part, then grab this and attach you as a single unit to that. Doesn't really matter how, pawn. So long as it's attached to it, radially. Okay. And now switch back to you being the root part. Is the octo label in the correct direction? It is. And now when I detach you, the center part is the part that I want to be attaching to. I put 2 of them on there. Like so. You're not... No, there's one on either side is the thing. There's one of these on either side of the craft. Have you realized that? You haven't realized that. Oh, come on now, game. Maybe on this side. No. Oh, fuck. But you guys are mirrored. I was so careful in, like, where all this stuff was placed to have to do this would be a bad thing. But you're respecting that as though it's something that it shouldn't be. Oh, I love it when the game just randomly decides that I'm not gonna treat that like that. Aha! Yes, I've got it there, which means now I do have to just put this back wherever it was that I had it before. And I will put it right there, I think. And hopefully that's okay. I'll have a look at it in a minute. But the whole thing was just to get it attached in some way, shape, or form. You, sir, from there, I want you... This is weird. This is not the way that I expect it to be. Okay, but then you, and then out. Because I wanted the wheels to be going in. Yes? I think we've finally gotten there. Except for you're not... Are you not on the... Make sure you're in absolute, and then click that. Yeah, you gotta be dead on the center of that, because that's your attachment point now. Okay. I'm gonna drag you down to like there, I suppose. Yeah, you're dead on the center of it. You just don't look it because you've got some space between the two of you right now. If I get rid of some of that space. Okay. I think they're attached the way that I wanted them to be now. So you see what I'm going for here. You see what I'm trying to get to. This won't work because you need to put a fairing over it, pawn. Ah, shit. All that work, too. All that work, and I still will need a detachment point. Fuck. Yep. 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 Because once the fairing goes on, it won't go over the top of that and everything else. Which means that you guys... How's this gonna work? I'm gonna go back to before I fucked with the position of these. Should be there. Be there, because that won't work anyway. Pawn, I mean, this is the best way possible, but what the fuck are you doing? You know, things and stuff. Ooh, I didn't check on that. You guys won't do this, will you? Build the fairing there. Will you actually allow me to build the fairing because it's through those... through those engines. Also, we are off-center again on this build. I love the VAB. Okay. Build fairing. Let's try and wrap this thing up first. And no, it's not going to let me build the fairing. It'll let me close the fairing with those engines being where they are. So we might be doing what Dramatian suggested. few minutes ago, which is putting on some cubic octagonals on the sides to give them the height and distance that they're going to require. I mean, otherwise, could you just... It needs to come out pretty immediately, pawn. How would I get them high enough? Damn, this is actually turning into a thing. Just to be able to close this fairing, I'm going to need to be able to come out immediately with it at the lowest spot, which means these engines would need to be below everything. But they can't be below everything if we want to be able to set this down on the surface of Minmus, which would mean that they would need to be somewhere else. They could just as easily be up here, that's fine. But there's nothing to attach really anywhere on this craft. One of the things you'll notice, by the way, Jim, you liked this last time, I've done it again. This fairing is actually attached to the top there using the nodes, using the control point nodes, which is why we get this extra structural girder that goes all the way up along this side to there. Just a little bit of extra greebling by, you know, using the fairings that way. But there's just sort of nothing to attach to. You can't attach to here. It's not a surface model attachable point right there. There's nothing that comes out this far on all four sides. You know, this isn't attachable. That's not attachable. There's no surface that is attachable here. I could do them at a weird angle. So if I put the cubic octagonals on in four-sided symmetry, and then I bring you up 45 degree. It's not 45, that's 45. And then I merge in. But below where the fairing will need to be. In fact, maybe not 45. But there. Below where the fairing wants to be. Try and make it look the best that I'm going to be able to make it look. And then attach the engines to it. So, and then with absolute rotation.